It's a beautiful morning, and we are going to be leaving Belitung finally, and we're heading off to Little Island, somewhere through there, but it's about 38 miles away, and this begins our journey north towards Sabana Cove in Malaysia. Bit of wind. The forecast actually has it a bit erratic for the next few days, but whatever. We've been getting pretty much consistent easterlies, southeasterlies here, so I'm hoping for a nice little sail today. Looking forward to it. It's not. Should be good out there.
Okay.
Yep.
So we've just had a really nice sail this morning, beautiful conditions, 4-5 knots, up 5.5 knots, lovely sunny skies, but now it's clouded over a bit and the wind has dropped right down. It does mean, of course, that we are going, because we're going west across the Java Sea, we are intercepting with freighters and containers going north. They've come across the Indian Ocean through the Sunda Strait. They're now heading up to Singapore, China, and they're coming across the front of us. This beast right now is over 300 metres in length and 50 metres in width.
Hey, it's closed.
Huh?
The shop's not open today.
It is serving.
So just over my right shoulder is the little island of Gelasa, and hopefully should offer a little bit of protection from this slightly rolly sea. It's coming from the east, and we're going to go over the top of the island and tuck in, have something to eat, nice sleep, and move on tomorrow. Unfortunately, our fishermen didn't catch anything today. It's rubbish. Well, shit's about to hit the fan, as you can possibly see. There's a wall of water. It's probably 200 metres away, and it's coming straight for us. These is relocated onto the hatch, and then the driest person in the boat.
Here it comes.
Well, here we are, North Gelasa. Nice little spot actually. It's been very overcast the last few hours, and in fact there was a bit of a squall building up over in that direction. The wind changed direction. We had quite a bit of swell as we came in. Of course it's behind us, so it wasn't so noticeable, and then as we came around the corner and that swell hit us on the side, you can really start to feel it. And then just out there is a little reef, and we've just managed to tuck in just a little bit behind it. There's still a bit of swell, so I think it's going to be a bit of a rocky and rolly night, but I think we're safe. And you'll notice behind me there's a catamaran. They were ahead of us, and then they went round the other side of the island. I think they were going a bit slower than us, so they've just pulled in just after we dropped hook. Over there, they look very close to that reef, but of course they don't have much of a draft. And as you can see, loads and loads of fishing boats, quite a few anchored up. There's quite a few out at sea as well. But this is just a very quick stop, and then we'll be off again tomorrow morning. Something that we haven't really talked about lately, I think we mentioned it once, is this little box of tricks. This is an Iridium Go. It's basically a modem. And the reason why we really like it is because we use it for two things. And the first is to send our position, which is what I'm about to do, to 4 contacts. So you can add their email addresses into the modem, and you simply press a button and it will send our position. So one goes to my father for his entertainment, one to my brother for his entertainment, brother Tim that is, one to Chris, Liz's brother, just so he knows where we are, and then perhaps most importantly is David Wheatley. Now if anyone's in the yachting world will probably have heard of David. He basically monitors weather and yachts around the world, and he very kindly volunteered to be one of our contacts and also actually be our point of contact for an emergency. So David, thank you very much indeed. So all I'm going to do now is just send that, and then perhaps later on the other thing I'm going to do is get a weather report, and that's where predict wind comes in. As I said, I'll talk a bit more about that, but predict wind along with the Iridium Go is a really good combination. Cannot recommend it enough.
Up at 5:15, away by 5:45, sails out. Bit of a miserable day still. There's a bit of rain about, not too much, a lot of clouds. Apparently we've got this for the next 2 days. Let's see how true that is. 30 metres depth. It's all pretty shallow round here, and it will be all the way to the next anchorage. We've got to go through some oil platforms and a few little obstacles, but it's about 8 or 9, I think about 9 hours today. Last night I slept quite well, but there was a lot of fishermen going back and forward. Worked me up to it. Your nav lights work, by the way.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Well, it may be grey and overcast, but what Liz forgot to tell you was that that last clip was recorded at 6:30 in the morning, so the sun really hasn't come up. You never know, we might get a bit of sun. We've got a nice, 12 to 15 knots of wind off the hind quarter, and the sea state is, it's not too bad actually. So at the moment I'd say this is a good sail, because we're getting good 5 knots just on the Yankee and a little bit of mizzen, and it's very comfortable. I like it so far. Let's hope it stays this way. Well, as you may be able to see, there should be an offshore platform here and an offshore platform there, and this one should be 1.5 miles away on a bearing of 236, which puts it over there. Well, take my word for it, there is nothing there. I see no sign of it whatsoever. Meanwhile, the waves today are brought to you by the southeast, as opposed to the east, or the east-northeast, which they were yesterday. Now this is actually an advantage for us, because the next place we're going to be going up the east coast of an island. I'll zoom out, you can see this is where we're going to be heading. So with the waves coming from here rather than here, this could offer us a bit more protection, and we're going to be aiming for a very interesting little area. Have a look at this. It looks pretty scary, doesn't it? All these reefs, but we're hoping this will offer some protection, and in fact it's quite deceptive, because if you zoom in further you can actually see there appears to be channels to make our way through those. So yeah, looking forward to that. That could be interesting. There we go, Millie's going to start getting animated because Liz has caught something, we think. Come on, Mills. What was it?
It was a plastic bag.
Add it to the collection. That's disappointing, Moo, isn't it?
Look, Millie, look. Just check it out.
Interesting morning. A bit of sailing in cloudy weather, and a bit of motoring, then a squall came from the west, and as you can see now we're sailing once more, and hopefully the sea state should calm because it's coming more from the south, and we're coming around the corner of this next island called Bangka. Yep. So at the moment we've got a little patch of blue sky, which is always very exciting. There does seem to be a bit of extra wind happening in the cockpit though, and that's thanks to Liz's curry from last night.
That's you, not me.
That's you. Well, last leg of the journey, and back to motoring again. Most of that big swell is gone, but it's still quite rolly. There's still a bit of roll. Basically, as I pan round, this is all reef along here, and we've just spotted these things as well, these fishing platforms that Liz was saying look quite alien. There's a few of those dotted along the horizon. Our destination is about an hour away up there.
This is one of those places that you only really find on a boat. It's not going to be on any tour guide. It's completely out of the way. I mean, we go to lots of remote places, but they never fail to stun me. We're surrounded by these weird fishing structures made out of bamboo, sticking out of the water, looking like aliens. One of them had looked like a samurai helmet, the shape of his hut. Nobody on them. And we've anchored right in the middle of them. There's nobody here. I saw one fishing boat earlier, a pretty island over there, and it's just so remote. You feel like you're on the edge of the world in these places. It's brilliant. It's really why we do this, I think. So we've left beautiful Bangka Island, southeast Anchorage, where we stayed for 2 nights. We loved it there. Don't know why. It's quite desolate, not much activity. Fishing boats, as always, but just incredibly peaceful, nice and flat, wide views all the way around. Just loved it there. So now we're heading north. Got the sails out. Got 1 sail out. Yeah, 2 sails. Got the mizzen as well. What are we making?
Good 5 knots.
Yeah, feels good.
I think we need to sheet this in a little.
Okay, should we stop and sheet? Sorry for the interruption there. Yeah, so we're heading north. We're going to Pulau Lingga. Originally we were going to go to the top of this island, stay for a night, and then make 1 cross over to Linger, but we talked about it last night and there didn't seem to be much point, so we're going to make 1 long crossing over to Linger. It's about, from memory, about 140 miles from where we left.
Yep.
Right, why we got the engine on?
Huh?
Why have we got the engine on? Speak.
Oh, sorry, we are just motor sailing out of danger. There is a tug pulling a ship, and I had him on radar, and the radar was showing him actually coming across our bow. Tried to radio through, but of course if they're not chatting away incessantly, which they were a moment ago on channel 16, they're silent, no AIS and no response. So just to be safe, we've stuck the engine on, so we're motor sailing at 6.5, 7 knots. The problem is there's a reef over there, so we don't have much sea room, so as soon as we pass him we're going to turn around and get back out to sea.
And his AIS isn't on?
No AIS, no.
So without any form of communication or the AIS turned on, we have to guess what the boat is doing. I had a look on Navionics. We have just passed a small port. There are lateral buoys going into that port, and of course you've got to go through quite a lot of reefs and shallows and rocks and so forth. Our guess is that the tug is probably going to be taking the boat in there.
Here we go again, tug number 2. It's probably only a couple of miles between the two. I think the biggest problem is when you can't communicate on VHF and there's no AIS. With most other boats it's pretty easy to work out where they're going, and at night time it's almost easier because you have the navigation lights. You know, if you've got a port or starboard light, you know roughly where they're going. When you see both, you know they're coming towards you, of course. The difference with tugs is that they, just because they appear to be moving one way doesn't mean to say their heading and their course over ground can be different. Because they have that load, they could be countering a current that's pushing them one way, so they're having to steer the other way. So this is why it just makes it a little bit more difficult. And let's not forget, of course, there's a great big steel cable connecting the two. So that's why we're just a little bit jumpy, but I think he's following the same track as the previous one. So we're just steering over to land. We've got a bit more sea room this time, so it's not so bad, but we will be ready to stick the boat under engine to speed up to get out the way if we need to.
So this is yet another kind of hazard to think about in this area. They're kind of fishing platforms, and they stretch all the way along the coast, dotted randomly, some far out. One behind me is about 6 miles out, but there's loads more over Jamie's shoulder. They're made of bamboo, mostly bamboo and wood. There's a little wooden structure on top for someone to stay in, I guess. Nets underneath. But of course, when the big storms come through here, you've got to look out for these guys, because they're going to fall apart. They're going to come apart, and then you're going to have a whole lot of debris in the sea. So at the moment, everything's okay, and they seem to be all right. But it is that potential hazard in bad weather when one of these things falls apart.